propagate, innuate, illuminate, shine on me like a queen. Well, I be how high I'll go for you to harvest a billion, billion, na 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 na, billion, na 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 na, harvest a billion.
Welcome to Farmer Odrek Talks Trade here in beautiful Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. I am your host, Odrek Rwabogo, an entrepreneur, author, advisor, teacher, and most of all, a farmer. So I was born on a farm. I was raised on a farm. I planted beans and maize. I tended cattle and went through some of the driest seasons in terms of production. I lost animals, lost crops to drought, suffered tick infestations, used different forms of acaricides that didn't work. But when I finished university, I decided that when I start my own family, I would then take them back to the farm to make an impact from the grassroots level, from where things started. Our experiences in dairy farming here taught us many things. For example, the need to change breeds and feed to increase milk production, the power of value addition, the challenges of fluctuating prices, and trading with neighboring countries. So the things I share with you, I have experienced them on a personal level, on a family level, and so the lived experience that I bring to you is to help you find a way to increase productivity and production, to get information and knowledge on what should be done to transform our farms and increase our incomes. On the show today, we host Meg Hilbert-Jackie, who is the managing director of the all-natural food processor Jacana Foods Limited, and also the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Uganda. Later in the show, we will visit a coffee farm where the farmer has also importantly diversified into cocoa farming. We'll also hear news features on agriculture in Uganda before we take some questions from you, our listeners. So we now welcome another wonderful guest to the show. Could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us what your company does as well as your product profile?
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Meg Jakwe. I am the managing director of Jacana Foods Limited, and I'm also the president of the American Chamber of Commerce here in Uganda. Now, at Jacana Foods, we're an all-natural food processor. So we're turning raw fruits into new products like dried fruit snacks, many different sauces and jams. And we started, as a banana juice company 30 years ago, but now we produce over 60 different products for both the local and international markets.
When did you start the company?
So I didn't start the company, but the company was started in 1994 by Dan Jacana, who's our founder. Now, I've been with the company about 14 years, and I was brought in to really help expand it from being a local company to more of an international exporter. And now we have over 10 different product lines that do that, including sourcing raw green jackfruit, producing banana fibers for processing. We make snacks, bakery items, and then we have our organic urban garden.
Okay, where do you normally get your raw materials from?
So all of our materials are sourced from farmers around the country. Our pineapples and jackfruit, for example, come from Kayunga. Our mangoes come from Nakasangola. Our bananas come from Ntungamo. And our fiber comes from Ruberizi and Kasese. So we basically have chosen the best of the best products that we could find around the country, and it meets the flavor profile demand that our customers are looking for.
Great. Meg, you pronounce these names so beautifully. Ruberizi, Kasese, I like the way you say them. How many people are you directly and indirectly employing?
So we have 30 full-time staff, and we are right now in the high season. So we have about 20 more casuals right now that are helping us with a very large pineapple, dried pineapple order that we're exporting this next month. When we're doing green jackfruit sourcing, we have 50 collectors that do that on a weekly basis. And then for our fiber processing, we're also employing 20 people who collect and process fibers.
Very good. What's your production capacity?
So we right now are doing about 2 tons of fresh fruits a day. We can source 20 tons of green jackfruit in 2 days. We can process hundreds of banana stems for fiber on a daily basis. So since we are so diversified, we really we have quite a good processing capacity in all those different product line areas.
Good. Have you benefited from any government incentives such as free land, tax holidays, things that government gives to those who do this kind of work that you're doing that is good for the country?
Yeah, definitely. Now, Jacana Foods has owned our land here in Kampala for nearly 30 years. But in the earlier days of the business, we definitely benefited from tax incentives for importing packaging that really helped the business.
What's your market profile, Meg?
Well, we have really 2 basic profiles. For an export market, I'm really looking for companies who want to white label our products for their own brands, which is our largest market. Because it's very difficult as a processor sitting here in Kampala to really understand how do you label your product for France versus the Netherlands versus the US versus Japan. So by producing a product that someone else can put in their brand, it gives us plenty of business to go around. And then our local brand, our local market, we are very expat centric here because I, being an American, I love to have my comfort food from back home. So in fact, tomorrow is our Thanksgiving. So today we are preparing all kinds of pies and everything for my fellow Americans for us to enjoy.
Fantastic. What are you planning on expanding to other markets?
Yeah, it's been actually pretty exciting. Our website really draws new people from different countries. We've recently engaged with someone from New Zealand. I have now a large customer in the Netherlands that I had not had before. So, I'm not limiting myself to what country I can export to. I'm really just trying to focus on making sure that I have the right Ugandan flavor profile that is in high demand around the world.
What's your working relationship with various institutions of government, the Revenue Agency, the Investment Authority, the Export Promotion Board?
Yeah, well, I think all of us have a relationship with URA. We talk to them on a pretty regular basis. In fact, we were there yesterday, just to make sure we're all in good standing. I had a meeting with UIA and URSB recently, just to look at, what kind of incentives for us as a business we can get to, as I said earlier, retool and expand, because, we would love to bring in some more new technology. There's, the food business is always changing and evolving. When I went to the Fancy Food Show last year, this guy said, do this and we'll make sure it can be brought into the USA. But, retooling, there's not a lot of incentives for us. So, that's just something I brought up at that meeting with UIA. So let's see if it can go any further.
Okay, that's good. How's the investment environment in Uganda now? Is it improving? Are we doing well? Or there are some issues you want to pick up?
Well, I think you touched on one of them. Obviously, getting money is a challenge here. I won't mention the bank, but I heard an ad on the radio the other day for a 30-day loan at 9%. Sounds affordable, when you listen to it, but then when you default, then you're in problem. So, but if, the EXIM can support us in doing more of our exports at a much lower interest rate, that would be awesome. But I think, especially here in the agricultural sector, I think we still have huge opportunities because we are a 2 growing season country. And I think if we can push that more, we have more chances for vanilla, more chances for cocoa, more chances for coffee. All of these are in such high demand. And if we can push and incentivize more agro-based businesses to emphasize that 2 growing season so that we can meet demand when other countries only have 1 growing season, I think we can have huge opportunities ahead.
Good. So your current value addition scope, how does it look like?
Well, so we, of course, have our dried fruit snacks. And I never look at an input the same way again. So I learned this in COVID when we had so many crates of tomatoes that were on the market. So we bought as many as we possibly could. And now I make 10 different products out of a crate of tomatoes. So I think, when I talk to entrepreneurs about this as well, I say, just don't look at that input the same way again. And I'm also a circular economy. I don't let anything go to waste. We use every bit of every input that we have here to help us in our business. So I don't have to send anything to the landfill anymore.
Meg, that's very interesting. If you could just strengthen that area of lessons learned from COVID by exporting businesses and even domestic businesses, because people have returned to the old normal, yet you're saying you learned some lessons that entrepreneurs can take. What are those? If you could just strengthen that point.
Yeah, I just think that we can't do business the old way anymore. We all have to ensure that we are managing our shillings, managing our profit margins. And the only way you can do that is when you don't waste anything. And, look at a banana stem, for example. Right now, we are processing banana stems into hair extensions, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you don't only get the hair extension out of it. The waste can be turned into paper and boxes. The liquid that we extracted can be turned into liquid fertilizer for a garden. So there you have it. There's 5 products out of one banana stem that used to just get cut down into a garden. You have to think completely differently these days to outcompete what everybody else was coming up with during COVID.
Fantastic. So adversity, mother of invention. I think that's the lesson I pick from what you're saying. Any plans in that value addition space? Because you seem to have already expanded your palette. What are you planning for the future? What do you predict?
Oh, yeah. I wish I had a crystal ball. I could make millions. But, I don't necessarily have an exact product, but I have a different way of thinking. Right. So, for example, right now we've had a butter shortage in this country, right? Because all butter was being exported. Well, I decided to make butter because my customers were demanding butter. Right. So I'm always looking for where are the gaps? And is somebody going to pay me for the product that I'm going to create for them? Now, the butter shortage might be, over now, but at least now I built my credibility as a company that could meet the demands that the customer needed. And I think that's just something that you always have to be looking for.
Great. Just tell me if you have any other message for listeners, Meg.
Yeah, I do. I think it's really important. And I talk to a lot of young entrepreneurs here in Uganda that there's 3 things that I give them advice about. Are you producing a product that the market needs, and are they willing to pay you for it? It's not good enough anymore to just build it and they will come. You need to make sure that whatever you're producing, somebody is going to pay you for it. Now, second, can you utilize an underutilized factory to help you build your brand before you spend the money on capital expenses that you may or may not need? For example, if you have an idea for some sort of food product and Jacana Foods can help you to produce that product and you put it on your brand and you test the market, then after a time, you'll have saved up enough money and build your own factory. But I think the last thing is the most important. Is when you're getting ready to start a business, you should have an exit strategy to sell it to the next person so that you get your investment back out of that business someday. We all want to retire, right? So have that strategy in mind so that someone can continue your legacy and take the business to the next level.
Thank you so much, Meg. Just tell me, do you have a website that we can visit for more information for our benefit and that of the listeners?
Yeah, of course. We have 2. The first one is jacanafoods.com. If you want to see the 450 different products that we produce here in Uganda and sell locally, you can go to southsidemarketug.com.
Thank you so much, Meg. This is a very interesting conversation we had. They say that good teachers give you fresh insights. Great teachers teach you how to think. And I think that's what Meg has done for us as entrepreneurs, as young people, as farmers, as manufacturers. Thank you so much, Meg, once again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Now here, are the agriculture and trade news features brought to you by Jenna Mongi.
Thank you, Odrek. In today's episode, we have news features on Uganda finding a sugar avenue in Rwanda, a young farmer revolutionizing Uganda's agriculture, and the veg seed project. Uganda's sugar industry finds an avenue in the Rwanda market. The latest statistics indicate that Rwanda has dumped Kenya and became the leading consumer of Ugandan sugar within the East African region. Out of the total sugar shipped to the East African community during the first 9 months of 2024, Rwanda took 35.3% of the Ugandan supplies, or 39.3 metric tons. Numbers say that Uganda has only exported 18 metric tons of sugar to Kenya since July 2024 up to September, making it a sad tale. This decline is as a result of Kenya's policy volatility, which has shifted in the recent past, such as restrictive permits and export bans. Rwanda has limited capacity to produce sugar, and that is why it sources for almost all the sugar it consumes in the region because it has very limited land to invest in growing sugarcane. Currently, Uganda's government intends to diversify its sugar industry through value addition that involves processing the sugary produce and evaporated sugar into refined sugar and ethanol for biofuel and green energy. Currently, the industry minister, David Bahati, intends to synchronize mill-generated power to the national grid. However, recently bargaining was disrupted in some parts, and Kenya has recently rescinded its turn to ban Ugandan sugar, allowing sugar imports from East African Community and COMESA only. Revolutionizing Uganda's agriculture, young farmers' innovative approach bears fruit. The reigning 2023 Best Farmers Competition winner, Muhawiya Mukasa, is revolutionizing Uganda's farming by practicing rabbit farming and dragon fruit growing in Kapeka Agro Livestock Farm. In the initial years, Mukasa had difficulties in implementing ideas that were able to devise methods such as semi-self-cleaning rabbit cage system, which he designed with locally available resources. His farm is an inspiration of the youth in the community and has adopted economic freedom as a tool to drive the youth generation and also as a pillar for sustainable production. The Best Farmers Competition, sponsored by DFCU Bank and partners, topped up Mukasa's success and sponsored him to a study tour in Netherlands. He embraced new methods of farming and various efficient methods. This made him want to implement such principles in the local area. As a goodwill ambassador of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, Mukasa educates young people of Uganda on how to adopt good practices as well as new ways of farming every end of the month at KALF. As far as Mukasa is concerned, his influence is already felt halfway through his trip. With KALF laboratories training hundreds, we are dealing with the youth unemployment and presenting agriculture as a career choice. KALF now remains indebted to DFCU Bank for its steady patronage, while being a constant reminder to the youth that there is money waiting to be made in agriculture in Uganda today. Uganda's vegetable production set to soar with veg seed project. The National Agriculture Research Organization in Uganda has reaffirmed its commitment to the veg seed project as a collaborative initiative with the Korea International Cooperation Agency aimed at enhancing vegetable production in the country. The project seeks to lay the groundwork for the development of new vegetable varieties, strengthen the certification system, and disseminate certified seeds for 5 crops, which are nakati, tomato, onion, cabbage, and chili pepper. This initiative is expected to significantly contribute to Uganda's agriculture industrialization agenda by promoting local production of horticulture seeds, thereby reducing reliance on imports from Europe and Asia, currently estimated at $700 million. With the increasing demand for vegetables and fruits driven by rapid urbanization and changing dietary needs, the adoption of improved technologies under the Veg Seed Project is expected to double Uganda's current annual vegetable production, estimated at 5.3 million tons, and that is worth $34 million. The project encompasses several key components, including establishment of infrastructure for vegetable breeding and certification, empowerment of human resource capacity, establishment of infrastructure for certified vegetable seed production, building farmers' capacity and improving distribution, dissemination, and farmers' awareness of certified seeds. The project has reached significant milestones, including the handover of greenhouses for breeding and the deployment of a new project manager, Professor Yangrog Jung. The project's infrastructure is hosted by narrow institutes, including the National Crop Resources Research Institute, Mukono Zonal Agriculture Research and Development Institute, and National Agriculture Research Laboratories, as well as the Buganda Kingdom. NARO Deputy Director General Dr. Sadiq Kasim commended the Korean government for its long-standing partnership with Uganda, citing the Citrus Value Chain Development Project in eastern Uganda as a notable example. He expressed optimism that the Veg Seed Project will bring an end to Ugandan farmers' dependency on imported seeds and pledged to incorporate the project's operationalization in NARO's annual work plans and budgets.
And these are today's news features. Thank you, Jen. So this time around, we are visiting another special person on his farm, a person who's swimming against the tide in farming. This gentleman is here with us to talk about his experience in cocoa farming, which few Ugandans have ventured into. He also grows coffee, so we can possibly say he has an interest in beverage crops. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for inviting us to the farm.
Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is William Senono. I'm a businessman as well as a farmer. I have a cocoa farm here in Iganga district in a place called Chivoyo. Chivoyo is just 5 minutes, it's like 5 kilometers away from the main town of Iganga. I also grow coffee, which I have an interest in as well. I've been a farmer for the last 10 years, although I started cocoa farming this year.
So tell us about what your experience has been like growing cocoa in Iganga.
During the time I started planting my cocoa, I was anticipating rain in Chivoyo area, but unfortunately things did not go as planned. Iganga district has been very hot of late, so this affected my plans as well. But we are planning. We hope things will get better. We've started experiencing some rain of late, and we hope things will get better. I've put in a lot. I've invested a lot. I've invested in charcoal dust. I've tried to conserve the moisture in the soil. I've gotten fertilizers in different areas, mainly from sugar factories that I've been buying a truck. I would buy a truck at around 500,000 just to put to prepare the garden before I plant the seedling. So this has been the biggest challenge on my side.
So how big is your cocoa farm currently?
Right now, my cocoa farm covers 2 acres, but I'm planning to expand. I still have plenty of undeveloped land that can be used to plant more cocoa in future.
And how do you plan to tackle the dry spells that seem to be a challenge in Iganga?
I'm looking into setting up an irrigation system in future to help me deal with the dry spell. Of course, I'll need to raise some funds to buy the necessary equipment, but once I do raise some funds, I'll be able to stabilize the situation that is there.
So is farming your primary source of livelihood?
Yes, farming is my primary source of livelihood, and it's my source of income.
And so what inspired you to get into cocoa farming?
I have a friend who has been in this kind of business, this kind of venture I started with, and he has benefited a lot. He's a cocoa farmer himself, and he has had his success. This prompted me to take interest into this kind of venture.
So I just want to know, is there a local demand for cocoa in Uganda?
What I've noticed, there isn't much demand in the local market because most of the cocoa that is grown here is exported. into the international market.
So I just wanted you to tell our listeners some of the benefits of cocoa farming.
One of the interesting about cocoa is that the entire cocoa fruit is useful and it can be useful in generating an income. For example, the pod has a type of juice that can be used in making wine. The pod itself can also be turned into fertilizer or insecticide. And of course, the beans can be used to make cocoa powder, which is great for drinks, baking, and even making chocolate. So every part of cocoa fruit has value. Interestingly, my connection to cocoa actually goes back to my childhood. My grandmother used to grow cocoa, and as a child, I would help her harvest it. Maybe that's where my love for this crop began.
Good. Have you received any support from the government?
No, I haven't. I haven't received any support from the government yet. But if they were to get involved and offer assistance, whether it's through funding or other means, it will really help us as cocoa farmers. The weather in Uganda isn't ideal for cocoa. So sometimes like irrigation will be a game changer. If the government could create programs to help us fund farmers with equipment that can support us.
Tell us, what are some of the challenges you face as a cocoa farmer?
One of the challenges I would say is the weather, which has impacted most of the farmers of cocoa, mainly those within Chiboyo. Chiboyo is a bit dry, and yet cocoa requires weather which is a bit humid. The second challenge is that there isn't much technical knowledge when it comes to cocoa growing. Many of the farmers, many of the people treat cocoa the same way they would treat other crops. So, and yet cocoa needs special attention and a different approach. So it is a delicate crop that requires specialized care and attention. If you do research online, you'll learn that cocoa growing needs a different approach, and it's delicate. It needs to be handled differently.
So if someone wants to venture into cocoa farming, what advice would you give them?
Well, my biggest piece of advice would be to do your homework. Research the crop and understand what you're getting into before you start. Being informed will save you from a lot of surprises down the road. Also, be prepared to put in a lot of time and effort. Cocoa farming isn't something that gives quick returns. It can take 2 or 3 years before you can start harvesting. And during that time, you'll be investing money and resources without any financial gain. So you'll need another source of income to keep you going until cocoa is ready.
So do you think more Ugandans should join you and consider growing cocoa?
Absolutely. Cocoa farming has a lot of potential. And if more Ugandan farmers embrace it, it can help them reduce on poverty levels. It's an excellent source of income, especially since every part of it is useful. On top of that, cocoa seedlings are readily available in Uganda.
Okay, so do you think more Ugandan farmers should join you in considering cocoa growing?
Absolutely. Cocoa farming has a lot of potential, and if more Ugandan farmers embrace it, it could help reduce poverty. It's an excellent source of income, especially since every part of fruit is useful. On top of that, cocoa seedlings are readily available in Uganda, and so are necessary farming inputs like fertilizers and pesticides.
Have you benefited in any way since you started cocoa farming?
Yes, I've benefited, and one of the things that I've benefited from all this is the necessary experience to grow good cocoa. I've learned a lot in months since venturing in cocoa, and this experience, I'm sure, will bear fruit for me in future. I cannot say I have benefited financially. My cocoa is not yet ready for harvesting, but in future, there will be monetary gain.
And as a farmer of both coffee and cocoa, how would you compare the two crops?
I think cocoa has an edge over coffee in terms of competition. There are fewer cocoa farmers, so the market is less crowded. Coffee has many more farmers, and the prices can fluctuate depending on supply. With cocoa, you also get the benefit of being able to make money from the entire fruit, not just the beans.
Thank you for hosting us on your farm today, William.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
In this final section, we take questions from callers across Uganda. And we have a question.
Hello, I am Akunda Mori and I live in Shima district. For a beginner, what are the best breeds of cattle I can take on for beef? And which ones are good for dairy?
This is a very good question, Mole, and thanks for this. For beef, some of the excellent beginner-friendly breeds include the Ankole cow, which we know very well, which is not just iconic because it's 7,000 years old. It's an ancient cow in the greater parts of Africa, from the north to the south. It's also hardy. It has great quality beef. Its beef is very well marbled. It is less cholesterol because it's yellow fat. You can also have Boran cattle, which are known for their resilience in Eastern Africa, all the way from Western Kenya into Eastern Congo. And they have very high resilience and high meat yield. Their meat to bone ratio is very, very good, very well balanced. We also should not forget the Brahmans. They are resistant, disease resistant, very well adapted to Uganda's climate. For dairy, you want to consider the Frisian or the Holstein Frisian, as we know it. It's a breed, good breed for and they have impressive milk production. Jersey cattle, which may be smaller in size, but they offer very high butter fat content. You could also consider the Ayrshire. It's a perfect breed for good quality milk. And also the Fleckvier. The Fleckvier, which is Austrian cow, largely gotten from Namibia, West Africa, now in Uganda. It does very well on milk and beef.
Hello, my name is Bale Frank and I live in Nakaseke district. I want to start poultry farming, but I'm confused about how to begin. What advice do you have for me as a beginner?
Starting out can be overwhelming, but here is a simple guide to get you on track. First, research and plan. Decide whether you want to rear broilers for meat or layers for eggs. Invest in proper housing with good ventilation to keep your poultry safe and comfortable. Choose quality breeds like Sasu for dual purpose or Cobb and Ross for broilers. Ensure you have access to high quality feed and stick to a consistent feeding schedule. Maintain strict hygiene practices and follow a vaccination schedule to prevent diseases. Budget well for all expenses and get advice from local experts or experienced farmers in Nakaseke.
Hi there. Isma Kagoda is my name, from Inganga district. I have an 8-acre banana plantation and want to diversify by starting poultry farming. How best can I integrate the two?
Great question. Integrating poultry and banana farming can be highly beneficial. First, you can use poultry manure as organic fertilizer to enrich your soil and boost banana yields. Secondly, you can place your poultry houses strategically in shaded areas, ensuring good enough space for ventilation. Thirdly, you can rotate the poultry house around the plantation to spread manure evenly. Chickens can act as natural pest controllers, eating insects that might harm your banana plants. And finally, as always, ensure safety by protecting the chickens from predators and ensuring they don't damage the banana plants.
Hello, everyone. Good day. I am Bwambale Collins and I live and work in Kasese. I want to start planting vanilla, but I fear the numerous vanilla thefts. I don't know what advice you can give me.
Well, that's a very valid concern. Security for vanilla farming is important because the prices of vanilla have been going up. lately, and so it attracts attention. Here is what you can do. One, you install strong fencing around your farm to prevent intruders. Secondly, you hire reliable security personnel, especially during peak harvest times. Three, you can also join or create a community watch program with neighboring farmers for mutual protection of your crop. Four, you can consider surveillance tools like CCTV, closed circuit television, or motion sensor lights. And most importantly, you need to stay connected with local authorities for additional support. Well, that's it for today's show. Thank you very much for listening, as always. Thank you, Uganda. See you next time. This is Odrek Rwabugo on Farmer Odrek Does Trade.
Harvest a billion.